The mayor of Ferguson, Missouri, outside of St. Louis, appealing for calm as protesters gather for another rally in just a few minutes over the shooting of an unarmed African-American teenager by police. This is what it looked like last night in that St. Louis suburb. Hundreds of people turned out demanding justice in the killing of 18-year-old Michael Brown. The outrage over Brown's death has prompted a new hashtag on Twitter called "If They Gunned Me Down." Here to talk about that hashtag are CNN political commentator Marc Lamont and CNN senior media correspondent and host of Reliable Sources, Brian Stelter. Before we get into our conversation, I have a little bit of new information out of Ferguson. We understand 32 people have now been arrested in Ferguson for looting and burning down stores, and police also confirmed that they were shot at certain points of the night. So this is an explosive situation. And there's supposed to be this peaceful protest there today, Mark, and the organizers say they're going to try to keep it peaceful, but who knows?
Well, whenever you have a string of violence, like you've seen here, Eric Garner here in New York, Michael Brown in Missouri, and really around the country, black men and women being killed, oftentimes unarmed, there's a great deal of anger in the street. There's a great deal of anger in the community, and oftentimes you will see something like this. That's not to say that it's right. I actually think that rioting is the wrong approach. I think rioting and violence is the wrong way to get justice, and it actually only creates more internal confusion and destruction. I think organizing is the way to respond, but I do understand the anger, and it would not shock me if we saw more. But I hope today that people, instead of reacting with looting and violence, which destroys the community, they organize against police terrorism.
Now, the incident that led up to the shooting is murky. We don't exactly know what happened. We do know that Michael Brown's 18 years old. He was supposed to start college today. He had some sort of confrontation with a police officer. He was unarmed, and he ended up shot multiple times by this police officer, who said that this young man was assaulting him. Again, we don't know all of the details surrounding this incident. But, of course, everybody's going to have their opinion, right? And that's why this hashtag was born, "If They Gun Me Down." So, Brian, tell us about this.
In fact, one of the photos we just showed on screen, it's one where he's holding his fingers in a certain way, and some people online perceive that to be a gang sign. There's no evidence that it actually was, but it was because of that photo, actually, that this hashtag started. People were saying, why aren't they showing pictures of him in his cap and gown? Of course, hopefully we're showing all of those, but the hashtag is "If They Gunned Me Down," and it asks the question, what photo would the media show if they gunned me down? Well, how would I be portrayed? And it goes back to framing. How are these stories framed? Is this about an unarmed teenager, a child still, who was gunned down, or is it about something else? Media framing is so important here, because if it's done wrong, people feel they're not being represented.
And when you look at some of these tweets, Mark, some of them are pretty powerful.
Oh, absolutely. Because I think part of it is because human beings are complex. Human beings have different identities. They operate in different ways in different spaces. And if you were to take a photo of me or you or Brian, on vacation or at a wild party, when we're 18 years old, it may frame us in a certain way that may make the public think that we're less deserving of justice and protection. When it comes to black male bodies, they're even more vulnerable to that, because there's already a public narrative that black male bodies are inherently dangerous. And so how they take our picture, how they frame us, how they present us in the media, and I guess we are the they in this case, helps shape how people will respond to us. There's a very big difference between having someone throwing up a gang sign or having someone with a cap and gown. But my point, not just to the media, but to other black people, is even if he is a gang member, even if he was stealing, even if he was committing a crime, that doesn't make you worthy of lethal force if you're unarmed and not posing a physical threat. Now, of course, we have to unpack all the facts here, but we don't need victims to be perfect to be deserving of justice, to be treated like human beings. We have to move away from that. I don't care if he had a cap and gown on or if he was running with a piece of stolen pound cake in his hand. It doesn't matter. He still doesn't deserve to be murdered or killed.
And because we live in this climate, this national media climate, where any local story can become a national story, it seems to me as if there creates this narrative of an epidemic of police brutality. And you talk about Eric Garner a couple of weeks ago here in New York, and now this. We can take these local incidents and they become a bigger story because of social media and because even local media stories become national.
And that's what's so important. And I think you've both illustrated the importance of talking about this story responsibly in the media. And I know I'll strive to do that. Thanks to both of you. Marc Lamont, Brian Stelter. I'll be right back.